because you had your breakdown where you almost cried in front of us when you talked about how you were letting your family down. So, what we're trying to ultimately do is figure out how you can be that father that you ultimately want to be.
You really can lose your shirt if a business goes down. Like,
More importantly, you can lose your family.
and so now to answer your question, do I like my job? Uh,
All right, guys, we have another fantastic guest with me today. We have John Lee, who's a real estate agent as well as an investor, but he is looking to figure out his life path, his next life path, because what he's doing isn't quite working for him. He's got a young family and he would like to be there for his family. So, today's call, we're going to be diving deep into what he's doing and what he could be doing in the future so that he could live that life that he actually wants. So, welcome to another episode of Simple Ways to Wealth with John Lee. What's going on, John?
yeah, what's up, home? Thanks for making this call and this time for us to really talk and dive deep into my life, your life, a little bit of both, and figure out how we can kind of unpack this together.
Yeah. So John brought up yesterday in a meeting that we were both at that he was struggling with the time that he was spending at work, which was me or which meant that he was away from his family. And he didn't want to do that because his dad did that. And so he didn't want to be quite like his dad because he knows what it felt like as a child where his dad was always at work. So John found himself, interestingly enough, in the same position. But
Yeah,
with that awareness, he can make the changes before his son is of age to actually notice. So,
yeah.
fantastic job being aware of what's going on and let's fix it. So, tell us what's the matter with your situation? What
Sure.
is it that you dislike? What is it that you do and what is it that you dislike about it?
I am a realtor. I am a full-time real estate agent as well as an investor. And the reason the profession is very important is because a lot of my prospecting is done during the day, and then a lot of my appointment setting is done in the afternoons and late in the evenings. So it's not uncommon for me to come home late and my wife and kid are already sleeping.
Yeah, I can imagine that it's tough. And then sometimes you're even showing properties as early as like say 10 a.m. or noon, I'm sure, right? And so you're like your whole day could be shot all the way through from morning to end.
Yeah,
Why are you a realtor? And do you actually want to be one?
yeah, that's a great question. I find that for me, being a realtor is one of the best professions based on my skill. Right? And I got into the profession by accident because, again, I um, I was an investor, right? I started like investing in wanting to buy properties, but it was very difficult to actually work with an agent who was willing to show me a 40, $50,000 house because at the time that's all I could afford, right? So it came to a certain point where I just said, "F it, I'm gonna buy, I don't know if I can curse on the show, but I just said F it.
We can fix it later.
I said F it, right? I'm gonna get my license, right? So that's what I ended up doing, right? So that promoted a lot of opportunity because I started posting on social media, right? So as I posted on social media, that's where I started getting more and more clients. Now, to answer your question, do I like my job? Uh, I don't know necessarily if it's something that to answer that question, yes, because I think the fulfillment in this job is a bit better than some of the other jobs that I've had before, right? It really does make me feel good to help someone, and I think there is a level of fulfillment in that. Um, but I've also realized I've traded that in expense for my family.
Let's step back real quick. You said that
Yeah.
being a realtor, real estate agent, that leveraged your skill, like it suited like what you're really good at.
Sure.
But you didn't talk about what you were really good at. Like what aspect of it was
Oh yeah, like the characteristics that I have that makes me
which are
or
what?
yeah, yeah. So I would like to think that I'm a real person. I think with where technology is and with with AI, for example, and with just like with what we see so much on social media, I think being a human being is actually the best or one of the best attributes right now. And
Well,
it's
let's let that's too fluffy
right.
because it's like I'm a human, you're a human, everybody's a
Yeah.
human being,
Right.
right? So
Right.
let's dive deeper into what that is. And the reason I want to do that is because if we don't uncover the actual thing that you're talking about,
Yeah.
you're going to be living in fluffy land, and fluffy land uh, may not be best served, or a real estate agent can serve fluffy land. But when we dive deeper into what that trait actually is, we might realize that realtor and that actual trait aren't the best fit,
Sure.
or there's a better fit.
For sure. For sure.
So what is
So
the trait?
I
Human
guess
is
what
not the
I'm
trait.
yeah, yeah. I guess what I'm trying to get to is that I am authentically myself in a way that I feel comfortable in who I am as a human being. I am very, like I said, I'm a very amiable person. I like to build friendships and relationships with people, and that's honestly how I get most of my clients.
Okay,
So,
so because
yeah.
you're like a nice guy, let's say, you
I mean,
think,
I guess that's the simplest way to put it. I always try to treat people with as much respect and love and care, and for me to really look out for them and for their best interest.
okay, so let's play
Ultimately.
this game. You
Sure.
say because you're this guy, this nice authentic guy, that real estate agent is the highest and best use because I'm going to stretch it, right? Because I
Okay.
need to stretch it to see if it's like if it's real, if it will survive the test,
Sure.
right? Okay, so you're a nice guy and you treat people well. Okay, great. And you're like realtor is highest and best use. That's my calling because of who I am.
Right.
Is that true now that I put it that way? Is that for sure true? And then,
If you're going to put it that way, there are other professions that I can
okay,
use that skill in other professions, if that's what you're saying, right?
I am. That's where
However,
I'm going. Yes.
yeah.
This is the direction
However,
I'm going.
yeah. However, the lowest hanging fruit, right? The lowest hanging fruit for me at that very moment of time in my life was being a
What
realtor
does
because
lowest
of
hanging fruit mean? What does lowest hanging fruit mean?
yeah, because I had experience of being an investor. So being in the real estate space makes it a lot easier to interact with people about real estate because I already had experience and I already had knowledgeable skill about it.
Got it. Let's test that one then. All right. So you're like,
Sure.
okay, I'm this nice guy and I'm good at taking care of people and I'm already a real estate investor. So real estate agent, lowest hanging fruit. It's the thing that I can transition to leverage that skill to make money. But was it the best choice? So let's play the game. You got real estate agent on one side, but you're an investor. And an investor and a real estate agent are two totally different things. So you
Right.
actually stepped outside of this pond to step into this other pond because
Right.
real estate agent is nothing more than a sales job. Real estate investor is the career of say moving money, right? You're just
Sure.
so now why wouldn't you have been better served being say like a syndicator, capital raiser, something like that, where your niceness, your ability to connect with people, and your desire to make sure that they're taken care of, why wouldn't that have better served investors who would be interested in investing their money into your projects? And why
Sure.
didn't you just focus on like either you doing bigger projects yourself, doing more projects yourself, either bigger or more or both, or teaming up with other people who are up to big things and saying, hey, I could be a good asset to your organization because I'm nice, I'm caring, I'm this, I'm that, and I can connect with people and I could probably raise capital. And I'll
Sure.
make sure that they're ta well taken care of so that they'd want to invest in our next project.
I mean, to answer that question, I do have those skills. Like if I wanted to go to, let's just say, a big, company and
Oh,
ask.
I know. I know you have
Yeah,
those
yeah.
skills.
Yeah.
This is why I'm
Sounds.
bringing it up.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
testing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm testing your theory of the lowest hanging fruit. The
Yeah.
easiest thing to achieve based on your skill sets was be a real
Sure.
estate agent because you were in the real estate space.
Sure. Sure.
What I'm trying to test is the validity of that statement because your head, your brain said that. Your brain said, real estate agent, it's the best thing for me because I'm the nice guy who can connect with people and I will take care of people and I'm already in the real estate space. So that's the truth in your head. So then I've
Right.
said, okay, you know what? Let me give you a different truth and let me see if this truth is better than your truth.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I appreciate the challenge because again, it's one of those things where uh I think it also comes with experience or lack of experience. So like, I got my license in 2018. So, that's when I first started real estate versus to where I am now, right? So the things that you're talking about, I probably wouldn't have understood what you were talking about. You know what I mean? So that's one, right? Two, I also think that what I mean by lowest hanging fruit, another thing that I want to add is although you and I can like tell the difference between an investor and a realtor, a lot of people on social media cannot, right? You'll be surprised by how a lot of people on social media, especially in our community, think that's very synonymous. So quite often I would get people who would text me and say, "Hey John, are you a real estate agent? I need to buy or sell a house." So when I'm getting traction that way and I'm realizing, hey, I was only doing it part-time to help a friend or two, and then I'm starting to realize, hey, I'm actually starting to get business from it. That's where I decided to put my eggs in one basket, so to speak. So when I started to do that, right, production went up, right? I went up I doubled every year almost. So now I'm at the point where uh, I've, like I have healthy habits in a sense of sales skills, right? I know what I need to do, how many phone calls I need to make, yada, 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 right? I get coaching on all that, right? I get accountability on all that. But I also, because I know also how much work is involved in all of those things, something is going to give. And that's either my health, like my physical health, like either I'm not working out or eating correctly because I'm stressed. I am working, right? Right. Or I'm being away from my family, right? So, like, that's where I'm at in my life right now. And I'm just trying to kind of figure out what is the best balance. And that's why I guess we're having this conversation.
Absolutely. That is why we're
Yeah.
having that
Yeah.
conversation. And so you fell into like the pitfall of what most people fall into. It's like, oh, this will pay me money. Okay, let me go follow the money, right? And then you just follow the money
Yeah.
with without actual strategizing for the big picture and the long term.
Sure.
Because you said, oh, so and so asked me if I could be a realtor and show them this house. And if I show them that house and they buy that house, then I make commission. That's great. But you never asked yourself the questions of like, okay, what does this look like at scale? Right? That's a question that like almost nobody asks. It's like, what does this look like at scale? Can what I'm about to embark on make me like a millionaire? Like, can I make $1 million a year? And can I make that $1 million a year without trading all of my time for that $1 million? Right? And so
Mhm.
these are tougher questions that people usually skip because they just say, I have bills, I can make money here, good enough. And then you just go. And then you just threw all your eggs in your basket. And then you realized because you didn't ask the questions of does this scale? Can I make $1 million a year without trading all my time for it? Because you didn't ask those questions, you are realizing now that you can't the way you're doing it. So you just chase the rabbit into the bushes. And then you go, uh-oh, there are thorns all over this bush. Right. And so now you're trying to back out of the bush, but at the same time, the thorns are holding you in. And those thorns are money because you don't have any other option right now to make money. So we're having this conversation to strategize. What is a better fit for you? What is a better fit? And so what are some of the other things that you thought of since you've had this kind of like I don't want to call it a breakdown, but like, this this shift, if you will.
Yeah, so we talked about this before, and everything that I do evolves around some level of real estate, right? So whether it's flipping a house or renovating and renting it out, or actually helping others buy or sell, and to kind of go on to that theme. I was really considering on buying businesses that were related to real estate. So whether that is subcontracting companies like plumbing companies, electrical companies like for that house electricians, um, and even other fields that I have experience in. So, for example, it could be financial services like insurance. I've had experience, selling insurance. So, uh, insurance is another property casualty. Again, that's insurance. These are all examples of businesses that I've looked at because, again, a lot of buying small businesses now have, and I think you and I talked about, have gotten popular because of being able to find something where you can have an operator control it, if that makes any sense. So, you know, I am trying to find different ways to work less. My next step also is to hire an assistant, which is something that will definitely help my business. I think where we talked about this, because there was a lot of accountability in our group, and we talked about it, was am I hiring an assistant just to do more sales and to make more money, or am I hiring this assistant to leverage time, right? Meaning, it might not necessarily to make as much like money as I would like to make, but at least it will give me the freedom to be with my family more often. And there are other strategies that you can start implementing in the real estate space that I'm still learning, and that obviously I'm still trying to pick the brain of others before me. So this is definitely a learning experience. I think I don't know, I guess it's a good problem to have, but at the same time, it's also a problem that could be pretty dangerous because I think on the surface, a lot of people look at success by how much money you make, which I don't. I don't trade money in exchange for my family just because of the experiences that I've mentioned before.
Yeah. All right, so now you're looking at different verticals, like completely different verticals. So it's like, oh, it's related. Plumbing, electrical. Dude, they're the only thing that is makes them related is the fact that like there is electric in a house. But in that same vein, why don't you manufacture doorknobs? There are doorknobs in houses. Why didn't you ever consider like manufacturing doorknobs? It's because it's like so far off. It's so I bring that up because a lot of people have this same mental model of like, oh, this is kind of similar, so I should do it. But the reality is it's not similar at all. Because if you were to do like an electrical contracting company, would you be the electrician, John?
No.
No. Okay. So then really what is the business? For you, your business, like what you would be doing is you would be marketing for business, like you would be running ads or whatever, right? Cold calling, not door knocking, and you're trying to get business to come into the door, and then you're going to try to like close them on that contract, right? It's like, oh, you
Right.
need your house rewired. Okay, cool. I can do it for $5,000. And then your job is kind of like HR. It's essentially like hiring the right people to go do that job.
Sure.
So, what part of that, of like selling the job and then hiring a skilled person to go do the job, is related to like what you're doing now? And the reality is they're so different. They're so different. Like you being an agent showing houses is you just being a salesperson showing houses. And really, you're just like, okay, do you like it? Here's the kitchen. Do you like it? Here's the bathroom. Do you want to buy it? Like that's your job, right? And maybe like negotiating with the other agent and figuring out the financing or whatever. You're putting that stuff together.
Right.
But that whole thing is very different than saying, hey, electrician, you work for me. I need you to go to this job and bang out this job at A plus quality for this price. And then I'm going to over here charge this price and I'm going to make the difference, right? That's your that would be your new job. Those two things are very different. Though they are both but though they both happen within a house, that is where the similarities end,
Hmm.
right? And so related or similar or whatever, not true. In the same, it's kind of like chess and checkers are both played on a black and white board. The
Right.
rules of the game are completely different. If you try to do the rules of checkers on a chess game, it makes no sense. So it's as related as checkers and chess simply because they're played on a black and white board. Right. And so that's the thing that you have to watch out for because you're about to jump out of the pan and into the fire because you're going to get into an industry that you have no experience in.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And
Sure.
so this this lack of awareness, you actually aren't even aware about the problems that you're about to face and how you said that your family is above all and you're doing this to free up your time. You don't realize that if you take on these other types of businesses, that you might actually have to give away 3 times more of your time. And then you go, oh my gosh, not only did I spend my hard-earned money to buy this business, but now I'm spending more time trying to keep that business afloat. And it's like, oh, and then it goes like, why did you just do that, John?
Hmm.
And then you're like, I thought it was going to be easy. I thought it was going to be this and that. And then it goes back to like, why did you think that? Oh, because they were related. They're not that related, John. Right?
Yeah.
And so I test, I test these thoughts. What people do is they come up with a thought and then they believe the thought,
Yeah.
but
So
they don't have any other people in their life to challenge the thought, like
yeah, no,
what this call is.
yeah, no, I see what you're saying. So I also think that I do agree with you that the sales part of my career is different than ownership of a business and the responsibilities that come with it, right? Um, but there was one thing that I do think of, right? I do think that because I own properties and I own multiple properties, right? And I manage them myself. There is a level of similarity in skill that I feel like that can translate into with business ownership, right? Also with business ownership, there's a level of math, right? And just you don't need to be a mathematician, but just the numbers behind of how to equate what we would consider a good deal on buying a business is actually rather similar and it translates rather nicely as it will with real estate. So what's very attractive about this, and I'm sure you already know, and for our listeners, and the reason why business buying is so popular is because the numbers, right? I think that's what attracts a lot of people, including myself. Uh, for someone that owns over 20 units, myself, right? I'm still working, right? However, if I am doing the same amount of work, chasing people for rent, and property managing and doing all these subset of skills in property management and real estate investing, I don't think it would be that much different than buying businesses, if that makes any sense. And that was my logic behind it. Being a realtor is entirely different. You are entirely correct, right? Because that's a sales subset of skills. But as far as the investing aspect of it and the management, the property management, and finding a deal, I think those two equate rather nicely. Only reason why I was looking more into subcategories of real estate, whether it's subcontractors like electricians and plumbers, is because I think it would supplement with my like within the realm of work that I'm already in, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I understand why you thought it.
Yeah.
So let's
Yeah.
test it. Okay.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
then that okay, so I like to use my magic wand and I go, poof, John, you own an electrical business or you're a plumbing business. Poof, you got it. All right, great. Uh, so now you have to go generate business. How do you go generate business?
That's a good question. Now, I'm assuming is this a plumbing company that is a startup, or is this a plumbing company that I own based on the math that I know, like, hey, like it generates this kind of revenue. So,
Yeah, I mean, it generates X number of dollars, right? But what you may not know is like how much work the actual owner did to generate that much revenue that last year that you're basing your financials off of.
okay. So based on criteria, I would like to get a business that has generated at least 2 million in revenue, because
Sure.
typically when you have revenue like that,
You can afford staff.
they typically have some level of infrastructure already,
Okay.
right? And when they have infrastructure, you would also want to buy a business that's been in the industry for typically at least 10 years. Also, what's really attractive about buying businesses, you have to like buy more or less boring businesses. That's the best way to put it. Like you don't
Hmm.
want to buy something that's
No, I get that. We already just
cutting.
determined that. So
Yeah.
the boring business is plumbing. So you bought the
So based off of that, right? Based off of all the criterias, that's what you're buying something that's already established,
right.
and there is risk to it because we talked about this yesterday about inheriting that risk, right? It's like inheriting a bad tenant if you're not looking at the numbers correctly, or if you're not looking at things that are not on the
So
balance.
are you telling me that you're going to be buying a business and just sitting by the phone and that phone is going to be ringing because it's already been established that this business is a business and it generates X number of sales just automatically,
Oh,
like the phone rings.
probably not. Probably not. No. So
Okay.
that's not, but however, one would argue, or most people would argue, that buying an established business is a lot easier than doing a startup because of already things being in place. Now, whether that's good or bad, that can kind of dictate whether or not you bought a bad investment. If there's good structure in place and there is like if there's good structure in place and there's already a decent infrastructure of employees and et cetera,
Yeah.
then that becomes a lot easier than doing a startup for sure.
No, I'm 100% with you. Poof, you bought a business and it has some infrastructure that works and some that doesn't, but
Sure,
you have to go generate the money, right?
sure.
So how do you do that?
If you're talking about generating like
Sales, your
sales,
business, you're a plumbing company. How do you get
yeah.
plumbing
If you're
jobs?
talking about generating more sales,
Yep. That's exactly what I'm talking
then
about. You're generating
yeah.
plumbing jobs. Where do you get your plumbing jobs from?
So it definitely helps if you're a real estate investor, right? Because that's kind of why it's kind of goes into that field, right? A realm of expertise, right? As a realtor, I get asked quite often, "Hey, do you know a plumber? Do you know an electrician? Do you know a
Okay.
contractor?" So having those references also are very important. And
Okay.
I'm not the only one. Like I have other investors in our community that's asking the same questions.
Hmm.
And I also have friends that are not even real estate investors that are asking those same questions. So
Sure.
I think it's a great piece to have to serve for, for the masses, and people who are within my community and my body, but also even for my own investments. Like if I'm handling the projects for plumbing myself, well, I know that obviously I'm going to get it at cost. And in theory, I can also test I can test like how quickly things are being done, if things are being done properly. I can product test. So that's part of the reason why that decision was something that I was leaning more towards
I
as
gotcha.
opposed to
So it's like
just
how
based off
it's
of
exactly like how you became a real estate agent, right? Think about this. It's
yes.
exactly how you became a real estate agent. This person said, "Hey, can you help me buy this house?" And you said, "Oh, well, if I become a real estate agent, I'll get paid." Cool. So now you're like, "Okay, people are asking like, "Hey, John, do you know of a plumber? Hey, John, do you know of an electrician?" And now I can say, "Yeah, my company, here's my card." Right? And then you're just
Yeah.
running down that same rabbit hole thing and
Right.
then chasing a different rabbit into a different thorn bush. So now I'm trying something. I'm trying to go this way, but you're like you're resistant. So let me go this other way with this conversation. Right? Let me go
Okay.
this other way with this conversation.
Okay.
Where does it fail? Because right now you got this like rose-colored glasses on that just says like, dude, everybody's asking for a plumber. I'm gonna buy one that has infrastructure. I'm gonna kill it. Okay,
Yeah.
then what could possibly go wrong? Do businesses ever fail?
Yeah, of course.
Then
Um,
why? How? And how come you're so special and yours won't fail? How come? So let's not answer that one. Let's answer the question of how could it fail? So simple, right? Simple. The P is for protect. It's hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. What is the worst? What could happen in your hypothetical scenario where you buy this business and things go wrong? What are the
mhm.
potential wrong that could happen? Because all I've heard were good things so far. I haven't heard
Yeah.
anything that goes like, dude, how come you didn't prepare for that? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't think about that. Why not?
Yeah.
Because I only looked at all the good things. So
Yeah, no, I think I touched upon it before. I think if you inherit something that's not, obviously you can't be prepared for everything, but there is risk, right? There's actually a decent amount of risk. And you get paid in proportion to that risk, right? So that's kind of like the risk reward, right? So with that being said, there is risk that if you inherit something that bad, or you inherit something that's not a great investment, or if employees turn over all of a sudden, right? That can be a factor. I think also if the owner's name is extremely important to the business, that customers start leaving because the owner's name is no longer on it. Obviously, that is a huge factor as well, right? Um, so yeah, like things that are on paper or things that are on the financial statements, they look great. But at the end of the day, those are all risks that are associated with it. And you really can lose your shirt if a business goes down. Like,
more
you know,
importantly, you can lose your family.
oh yeah, absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
so I've
Yeah.
seen that where somebody was listening to all of these podcasts about buying businesses, and they were like, greatest thing ever. Then
Sure.
they bought the business, and all of the employees left. They all followed with the owner. They're like, I'm not staying at this company. A lot of the clients switched as well, right? And then sometimes the new buyer and the seller don't have a non-compete clause, like the buyer didn't even consider, right? And then the owner sold you the company for $3 million and then opened up shop. Same exact thing. Took all of the employees and took all of the contracts. And
Mhm.
then you're like, I just paid $3 million for this business and it's not a business anymore.
Everything that we do right home, it comes with some level of risk, right? And we get paid in proportion to it, right? The only thing that we can control is based off of our research, our knowledge, and our confidence in and what I mean by confidence is our knowledge to make the best decision for whatever we're deciding to do, whether it's a business venture, whether it's an investment, right? Um, and I think you're right. I think a lot of times, because it's gotten such a hot topic, especially with business buying, I think we often hear a lot of the good stories. And I'm sure there's as many bad stories where people um, you know, end up,
Yeah, they get end up getting crushed,
yeah, they end up getting crushed,
but they
right?
don't sell well. Those stories don't sell well, so we don't hear about it.
Sure, sure.
I'm lucky to be in the position where I do hear about those stories.
Hmm.
I hear about the people who want to commit suicide after they bought their business because their business is going so poorly.
Sure,
Right? I hear about these stories and I'm like, oh, how about that? It's not all sunshine and rainbows. And so
sure,
what we have to do is we have to hope for the best, but we have to protect against the worst, right? We
sure.
have to prepare against the worst. And so it's like, okay, if all your staff leaves, then you're like, oh, well, I'll just go out and I'm gonna find more plumbers. Okay, great. How difficult will that be? Do you have a strategy on how you're going to find good plumbers, how you're going to keep good plumbers, how you're going to pay good plumbers? Because these good plumbers have high cost, and unless they're payroll to you, then they may have other jobs that they're doing. And you're like, oh no, I'm gonna of course make them payroll. Okay, great. So you're gonna payroll these guys and what, pay them $200,000 a year? Like as salary? But what if you don't have enough jobs coming in to pay their salary of $200,000 a year? And that's just one plumber. It's like, oh, then I guess I have to get more jobs. Oh, really? Okay, cool. So then you're gonna have to market and advertise for more jobs because, yeah, it seems like, oh my gosh, oh, I keep getting asked about like, is there a plumber out there? Is there a plumber out there? And then you're like, I would love to give him my business card. When in reality, it may seem like a lot, but in truth, it might not be that much. And even if it is that much, the job might be like, hey, I want to change my vanity, and that job is like $100, $200. It's like, okay. So like how many times are you going to change a vanity for that same person? How many
Sure.
times is that person going to call me? Like, so I'm not saying that plumbing companies don't work and don't exist because they obviously do. And if done right, it'd be great. But then at what cost of your own time and money and blood, sweat, and tears to get it to that? And so you have to be very careful. Now, you brought up this idea. You've said it multiple times, and I will disagree, and I'll share with you this idea. You're saying essentially the idea is high risk, high return, right? You said it differently. You're like, oh, we're compensated for the risk that we take, right? So essentially, high risk, high return is what you're telling me. Yeah, is what you're saying? High risk, high reward.
Uh, I mean, to a certain extent, yeah. I mean, I don't want
Okay.
to be
How about this one?
yeah.
How about this one instead?
Yeah.
How about low risk, high reward? How about super low risk and extremely high reward? Have you ever considered business models like that existing?
Yeah, that comes with education though. You know, why do we buy real estate properties? Why we buy investment properties?
Well, let's
Because
talk about that real quick. Do you see?
we're lowering our risk of being knowledgeable of finding what we think is a good deal. You could still lose your shirt off of it, you know what I mean, if you aren't properly leveraging or whatever.
Mhm.
So the same equations that you're using, and that's what I was trying to mention is the same equations in math that's very comparable to real estate is actually very translatable into buying businesses. So that's
Right.
why you find quite often, and again, I could be wrong about this, but this is just based off of my assumptions here. That's why I find that a lot of people that are in real estate also find business buying also very attractive because they are very close in relation as far as the numbers go, like how you can equate the numbers. It doesn't require a rocket scientist. Um, they both require loans. The loans are rather similar in how they're structured and the deals are structured. So I think that's what attracts a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs who are mostly real estate investors into buying businesses. So that's the logic behind it.
So my interpretation of why real estate investors buy businesses is a little different. You said that real estate investors buy businesses because they're so similar. I think real estate investors look to buy businesses because they don't cash flow enough in their real estate. And so then they're looking for an alternative that cash flows more because their real estate portfolio isn't producing enough. That's why
Yeah,
they're looking outside of the pond.
that's exactly a good point too. That's part of the reason why I'm looking into that.
Right.
But the reason why it's easier is because the math is similar. Like
Yes.
doing the equative math is actually pretty simple.
So
And
here's
look
here
at the math, the return on it is like ridiculous, like the
Dude,
cash on cash.
living in
Yeah,
a spreadsheet is one thing. Living in reality is a whole different thing. You know what cash
sure,
flows the best in real estate? Class D properties, right? Class
sure.
D, the worst stuff. The worst
Yeah,
stuff cash flows the best on paper.
sure,
What happens in reality? The tenant that you have in that class D property destroys everything, and then you like lose the property or whatever. You want to get out of real estate altogether because you've had such a bad experience.
sure.
So the businesses on paper, sure, they cash flow the best when things are working the way you wrote them on your spreadsheet. But on your spreadsheet, did it show when the contractor got drunk, went to the house, and then like messed up everything, and then you had to repair everything on your own dime? Did your
Sure.
spreadsheet show that? And then did your spreadsheet also show that most of the clients left when the owner left? And all of these things, right? So your spreadsheet could. right? Your spreadsheet could show those things, but typically, even when somebody says, "Oh, this is conservative underwriting," I've never heard somebody say, "Oh, this is very aggressive underwriting." Everybody says this is very conservative underwriting. They never show it super crazy conservative where like the wild wild west happens,
Hmm.
but it can. I, so back in 2020, let's say 2021, everybody buying apartment buildings, they said, "Oh my God, my underwriting is so conservative." None of their spreadsheets, none of them, and these are like the top real estate investors ever, right? None of their spreadsheet showed interest rates going to 7.5%. None of them, because they're like, that could never happen. And then it all happened. And now, where we are now today, apartment investors are getting crushed, absolutely crushed. And these are like the smartest dudes ever. And even
Sure.
they get crushed because of those kind of things. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. They just prepared for like what they could see. Oh
Sure.
yeah, I put interest rates going up 1%. Over the next 5 years that we hold the property, I underwrote it to go up 1%. Well, it went up 3%, and that destroyed everything on their model. So I guess what I'm trying to say or trying to help you do is to have a more, I don't even want to say realistic approach because what's realistic? Like uh, a super successful business as well as a business that crashes and fails. They're both realistic.
Sure.
I'm just making sure that whatever venture you look at with a finer tooth comb than you did when you jumped into being a realtor. Because you see now, after the fact, after years of being a realtor, the breakdown that could happen. Because when you were a realtor in 2018 or whatever, you didn't have kids, but you also didn't have as much business and you weren't overwhelmed and showing properties from 5 p.m. until 9 p.m. and then your family is asleep and you're losing your mind because you're feeling like you're just like your dad. These are all problems that you didn't foresee. You
Hmm.
didn't underwrite for those things. Yet here
Right.
we are having this conversation. What I'm trying to do is prevent you from having that same breakdown, but even worse. Because what you're talking about taking on is like being a realtor, but times 10 in terms of how badly it could go.
Right. Right.
Oh, Hone, I'll just hire more plumbers. Hone, I'll just get more contractors. Hone, do you know how many people in our network need plumbers? Just because they need a plumber doesn't mean they're going to hire your company. And just because they would hire your company, it doesn't mean the plumbers that you have are capable of taking on the job that they need done. And just because they need a plumber and you have a plumber that is capable of doing the job doesn't mean that you should do the job because it might be too small or too big for your organization to handle. Right? So there's all of these nuances too. Plumbing is like a giant umbrella. It's like, okay, what kind of plumbing do you do? Are you one of those guys with a truck with a sign on the side that says no job too small? Or is it possible that a job is too small that you won't do it? It's like, will you send your best plumber to a house where there's a drain that's clogged because there's hair in the trap? It's like, well, hone, that's a little small and ridiculous. Yes, but that the client is calling because their sink is clogged up and they don't know what to do. Well, it's a simple job. Just take the trap out and clean the trap. They don't know how to do that. They don't own a wrench. Well, you send your guy out for that. And you're like, well, I guess I'll charge them. And then you charge them $500 to do it. And they're like, I'm not paying that. And then you're like, oh, well, I don't know. Do you see the nuances? It's like, though people are asking for plumbers, it doesn't mean that the plumbing company that you create or that you buy will be able to service them. And it might not be as much as you think. And even if it is as much as you think, once you service them, will they be calling you back? Will they have another plumbing issue? Maybe, maybe not. Right. And what if your plumbers leave? So, really, the ultimate question is the hats that you have to put on. You have to put an advertising hat on, a marketing hat on, or an HR hat. Do you want to wear those hats in your life? Is that actually the job that you want? Because right now, you don't want the job that you have, which is going to show buyers houses that they're potentially going to buy and wasting all that time. You don't want to wear that hat anymore. That's why we're having this conversation. So now you're about to take off the realtor hat and put on these other hats. Do you want to wear those hats? And that's the big question that you have to be very careful of with answering. Because if you put on those other hats, what are you trading to put those hats on? And it could be even less time with your family, and you might end up with less money. What a kick in the pants, right? You put in more time, more effort, and you make less money because you bought a business because that's the hot thing right now. I don't know. Just food for thought, right?
Mhm.
So now I'm getting the feeling that you're not happy with this conversation. You're like, I could be totally reading it wrong, but you're not
Mhm.
happy with what is being said right now. What are you feeling right now with what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think that I'm always receptive to perspective. That's the first thing that I always have to be very well aware of. And sometimes the things that you hear aren't necessarily the things that you want to hear, just because in this space as an entrepreneur and things that like everything that I've done obviously has been independently done, right? Especially with our group, our accountability groups that we're part of. I think it helps to have different opinions from people who are like-minded that are entrepreneurs or people who have their own level of success in their own ways, right? So, getting that perspective, I always try to be very uh, or as receptive to hearing what they have to say, right? Um, I'm going to be honest with you. Is it something that I wanted to hear? Probably not. Just because of the fact that I think it still doesn't solve my goal, right? Like this conversation didn't solve a goal. Right? Like it helped me bring perspective of to be careful of how I'm trying to accomplish certain business buying strategies or, those kinds of things. But the ultimate goal is for me to be a better father while still supplying them with my family to be ultimately a good father and husband, by still being a provider financially. So, uh, you know, whether it's business buying, whether it's investing, whether it's whatever, right? To me, it doesn't make a difference what those outlets are. But at the same time, I am trying to navigate this process based off of my experiences and what I know. Um, you're right. I can go out and do something completely different. I can sell a spaceship, right? You're right. Like, or I can own a spaceship company, or I can, because I have sales skills and I'm a very nice person, I can work at, you know what I mean? I could, I could be a salesperson for cell phone company. I don't know. Like, you're right. I could do a lot of those things. And it's great that it helped me open up my eyes to see those things. So I think that's something that I have to give you a lot of credit for. I think, however, it still leaves a void. And the reason why I'm still kind of like thinking is because it still leaves a void of figuring out what I need to do. And
Right, because I didn't tell you what to do. All I did
right,
was tell you why you have to be careful with the ideas that you had already,
correct.
right? I didn't give you a solution. It was just kind of like, "Hey, I know you think this is your solution, but have you considered these other things?"
Sure.
And then you're just like, "All right, well, back to square one then, Hone. Thanks for nothing."
Yeah.
Right? Is that
Yeah.
what I'm getting here?
Kind of, yeah. So it's like what's next? Like what do
Got it.
you
Though you own real estate, buying a plumbing company, you don't have experience in. Right? It's like, oh yeah, oh, they're related. I own a business and like, but unless you've owned the plumbing company in the past, like you don't have plumbing company experience. Let's just like be real with it. Now, that is not saying that you wouldn't be able to figure it out. That's the problem with people like us. We can figure out anything, and we are willing to work until it works,
Sure.
but at what cost? And you're
Sure.
not of the age and of the position to just be so willy-nilly with your time. That's the thing. Could you make it work? Sure. But at what cost? Right. And so that's where you have to be very careful. So now, investing. You're already an investor. I didn't hear anything about doing more investing. All I heard was like, I'm going to buy a business or, the real estate. But I never heard anything about you doing more investing.
Hmm.
Why aren't you investing more? Why aren't you doubling down with like investing? Since you're like, oh, it's investing and b buying businesses are so similar. You know what's even more similar? More investing. That's even more similar to investing. More of
Yeah,
it.
right.
So why aren't you doing that?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's someone in our pod. He actually just left because, for whatever reason, but he was in our pod and dude, he like all he does is he flips houses and he flips so many houses that he opened up his own brokerage, like to do his own deals through. Like he funnels his own deals through it. So I was like, man, that's actually a not bad business model either. So I've toyed with that idea too. But what really holds me back, and I say this honestly, is I think that a lot of people rely on me. I do really think that a lot of people genuinely rely on me, and I feel that way, especially when they want to buy or sell a home. Because a lot of those people are in my, sphere, they're in my community. So I feel like I owe it to them to help out. Could I still do that while investing? I probably could. But a lot of my time spent is marketing as a realtor. And that is honestly where I'm at capacity. I am spending a lot of time on that. I don't know if the ROI on that is fair or worse than just doing it into like investment properties or flipping houses. And it probably isn't, to be honest with you. But I do find that for me, it does bring, and I genuinely mean it does bring me joy to help people who I know. Because I'm not buying like Zillow leads. It's not like I'm buying Zillow leads and like helping a stranger, which is great. I would love to still do that, but I'm definitely helping people who know of me or know of me.
All right, John. Let's not get trapped in interesting little like quips because you're like, oh, these people need me. Oh yeah? All right. So let's play that game. They need you. Okay. Let's say you quit being a realtor. Let's say your wife said to you, John, it's either you quit being a realtor or you quit being married to me. Which would you choose?
Definitely go with the wife.
Okay, go with the wife. Okay, so
Yeah.
then the people who were like, "Hey John, can you help me buy this house?" Oh no, I'm not a realtor anymore. What do you think those people would do? What would they ask? What would they ask?
Who do you know? You know, Probably who do you know? Who else do you
Okay.
know? Yeah,
All
yeah,
right. No problem, John. Do you know a different realtor?
yeah.
Do you know any other realtors, John?
Sure.
Really?
Yeah,
Do you know any good realtors?
sure.
Do you think you could refer those people to that good realtor and that good realtor would take care of your people just as well as you would? Maybe not just as good. Maybe a scooch less. Let's call it a scooch less than you,
Sure. I see what you're doing. Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want your brain to tell yourself these little stories of these people need me and this bro, they're just buying a house. Who cares? You know who needs you? Your family. But if you let these thoughts anchor you, oh my gosh, that's like that's so silly. So, what could you potentially do? Let's say you remain an agent so that you can do all of your business, like your investing business, through yourself. Do you need to open up a brokerage to sell your own properties? Of course not. So, this person who said, oh, I'm going to open up a brokerage, you don't have to do that. You can remain an agent and just sell your own stuff. When your friends and family call you, hey, John, I need to buy this house. Hey, guys, so I've actually changed my business model and what I'm going to do though is I'm going to connect you with this person who is a fantastic realtor who is going to take care of you. On the side, you and that person have a deal that every referral you give them, you're going to get 50% of the commission. So you're getting 50% of the pay with 0% of the work, right? So you're referring all the business over to this agent that you already know is good, that you already know will take care of them at the quality that you would. So fantastic. You freed up all of that. And if you go back into your business of investing, your ROI will probably be higher than you being an agent. And then with your business, As an investor, are you currently like, let's say when you do a flip or you do a renovation, are you doing any of the work? Like, are you like putting up the drywall? Are
No,
you?
no,
No. So you already have other people doing it.
right.
So I'm guessing it might be similar to me where you just kind of like check in every once in a while and you're like, okay, are we on pace? Like, are
Yeah,
we
yeah,
on
yeah,
schedule?
yeah, yeah.
And that's it. And so guess what you get to do with the rest of your time? Be with your family, obviously.
Hmm.
What's wrong with that?
No,
Do you feel like you lost a piece of yourself by not servicing these people as a realtor?
I don't think so. I don't think that's a word for it. I just think that
Do you think
um
nobody can serve them as well as you? Do you think nobody will care to serve them as well as you? Do you feel like you're the best realtor for them? For sure, like because you know that you will watch out for them and nobody else will. Do you feel that way?
no, I mean, I see what you're saying. I get it. It makes me think. Yeah, because like I personally think that, yeah, I mean, I don't know. You stumped me on that one.
Damn, this is good. I think this is the first crack in the shell, the breakthrough, right?
Yeah,
This
because
is
I think that if I wanted to scale the investing aspect of it, I probably could have. Probably could. I think also what holds me back from doing that is like I've gotten so much momentum in this space as a realtor. You know what I mean? And that's why I was just building on that. I feel like with the investing side of it, it was very consistent. Got complacent. Uh,
how much time do you think you spend being a agent?
to be honest with you, I'm not sure.
Okay. So
I I
would you say
I
it's
would
40 hours a week?
I would say around there is probably where I'm talking like 30 to 40 hours. It's not as much as like I don't work like 60 hours, but I think
Gotcha.
it's probably, but what makes it difficult is that I'm 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 managing properties too. Like I'm doing property management and I'm doing, flipping a house or two a year. I'm doing, you know what I mean? I'm
Sure.
running around, doing multiple things.
So you're
So
flipping a house. Let's say you're flipping a house or two a year. Okay.
yeah,
How much do you make flipping a house, would you say? 50 grand, 100
yeah,
grand,
it's like 30 to 50
30,
grand.
30.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah,
If you
not
spent 40 hours a week, 100% focused on flipping houses, how many more houses could you do in a year versus like the one or two that you're doing a year now? Do you think you could do like five, six, seven,
good
eight?
question. I gotta figure that out actually. I don't know the math behind that, but I know where you're getting at. Like
Right.
if I flip as many houses as I do transactions as a realtor, I mean I'll probably be a millionaire for sure. But I think also um we have to consider the joy of it, right? Like I do find that like
Here's the thing.
flipping
No, I
a
don't.
house,
Here's the thing. No,
huh?
I don't. No, I don't. You know why?
What?
Because both things provide misery in the big grand picture if it takes you away from your family. Ultimately, the
Point.
misery is higher than any joy that being a realtor brings you because that's why we're having this conversation.
That's
Because
true.
if the joy of being a realtor was so high that it just blocked out everything else, we wouldn't have this conversation. But that joy, that fulfillment, that all blah, blah, blah that you were saying earlier means
Yeah,
nothing
right.
because you had your breakdown where you almost cried in front of us when
Yeah,
you talked about how you were letting your family down. Do you see how it all pales in comparison? None of that
yeah,
matters.
yeah, yeah,
So, what we're trying to ultimately do is figure out how you can be that father that you ultimately want to be. But you're letting this thing called realtor stop you because of how you're running your realtor business. The model the M, right? The model in which you're running your business could be tweaked in such a way that it could serve you still financially and all of that, yet you still have time with your family. I'm not telling you to hang up your career as a realtor. I'm actually telling you to just do it differently.
Yeah, for sure. I
Hey,
think
I'm going
if
to assign you a team member to show you the house. And when you're done, call me
yeah.
later and I'll list it for you or whatever.
Yeah, I think if I figure out like the numbers behind of like how many flips if I do more flips as opposed to less, and then figuring out the math behind that, that could obviously be considered, right? You know, because it would probably be, it would probably be better ROI on on the time. I'm not even talking about the return on investment as far as like, I'm just talking about like relative to the amount of time it takes for me to do a flip versus a transaction.
Right. And you get to control the time with the
Yeah.
flip versus with
Yeah.
being an agent. Oh, you get out of work at 5, I'll meet you at the property at 6, right? It's like you're at their beck and call, which is
Right.
which is your problem.
Right.
Like you could go see your flips while your son is napping and then be back home when he's awake,
Yeah.
right? So you're just 2 degrees off, but you buying a separate business, I think was about to take you 10 degrees off. But you didn't see it because everybody's talking about like, oh, buy a business, the cash flow, and blah blah blah, right? And then so you just kind of like you went along with that gravy train. And I understand because it's very enticing. It's very sexy. You know what they call that? Shiny object syndrome. Oh, that looks better. Of course, that grass is greener. Let me do that. That's why everybody tells you to focus and try to say no more because they've already gone down that path of chasing that furry rabbit that seems so attractive. And
Hmm.
then when they actually caught it, they go, "This rabbit's even uglier than the rabbit I already have." Like it's through that wisdom. It's like I don't want you to have bought the plumbing company and then lost your family to realize like that was the bad idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's all. I know it's not what you want it to hear, but it's not about what you want to hear. It's about what you need to hear in order to make the right move so that you don't destroy the beautiful thing that you have.
Right.
What are your thoughts around that? Of maybe offloading your clients to other agents, doing the commission split, and then focusing more on doing investments because ultimately, if you look at your net worth or whatever, I'm going to guess, and I don't know your financials at all, but I'm going to guess that your assets have added more to your net worth than the time that you spent working. Because the time you spent working, you just spent that money versus the assets you own. They just grew in value over time because of inflation or principal pay down or whatever.
Right.
Like, so then it's like, okay, you got these two things going on where you work for money over here, and then here you're investing your money, you're buying assets. It's like, which one of these 10 years from now is going to like help your bottom line the most? And for most people, it's the assets that they own. It's like most people most millionaires in America are millionaires because of their primary home inflating, right? It's like, oh, I've lived in this house for 10 years and now it's worth this and now I'm a millionaire. Okay, cool. So if one house made you a millionaire, what happens if you own 20 houses and just hang on to it? What if you turn that 20 house into 40 houses or 50 houses or 100 houses? How does that look? Versus doing what you're doing, which is just being a high paid employee. Do you see the difference? It's
Yeah.
like, so I know you're trying to do what's best for your clients because like you have a reputation to uphold and correct me if I'm wrong, but Koreans have like a lot of like pride and they're like I got to do it and I got to do it right and I got to be seen a certain way and so if people are asking for my help, I got to help them because it is my reputation that I need to protect and all that kind of stuff. Does that play any part of it whatsoever?
For
Just from
sure.
like so it could be that that's causing you to not let go so easily to some other agent servicing your clients. But at the end of the day, you have to live with your family, or you get the option of not living with your family, which, it's like, and I put it so bluntly because I need you to see what the reality is. And now I'm not saying like your wife would leave you ever, even if you were a realtor and never home. I'm not saying that she would leave you because she's probably a wonderful woman who would stay with you by your side no matter what. But I'm not saying that you guys would be happy.
Hmm.
So that's ultimately you're playing the game of life. So you have to be very strategic with your moves. You got to think it through and you got to ask yourself things like, why do I feel this way? Why do I have such hesitation with letting go of my clients to some other agent that I know will take care of them through and through? Like, why do I have this reservation? And it could be because of like your upbringing or this or that, like those things. And then you have to challenge those things in your head so that you can free yourself of the stigma so that you can actually do what you're supposed to do, what you need to do in order to live the life that you actually want, which is you being a great father.
Yeah,
You being a great father means more than what your friends think who want you to show them a house, even if they're close friends of yours.
for sure.
And then the ultimate saying is, those who matter don't care. Or I'm sorry. Yeah, those who matter don't care, and those who care don't matter. If these people are people who are going to like hold a grudge against you because you didn't show them a house, you don't want those people in your life.
For sure.
So you were mad because you didn't have a solution when I told you like about all the negatives of buying a plumbing company. But here's the better solution, which is offload your clients and then invest more. That is something you could do. And you can literally do that right now without taking on any additional risk. And the additional risk would be the unknowns of buying a business. You don't know if the clients are going to leave. You don't know if the staff is going to leave. You don't know if their infrastructure is good or bad. And you won't know until you actually buy the thing and try to operate within it.
Hmm.
Here, at least, as an investor, it's your system. You already know what's good and bad. You're not taking on any unknown risk. The risk is already there and you know what it is. You just have to commit to focusing on your business. So mind your business. What is your business? Building your portfolio. And everything else is just noise. And if you wanted to do some flips, guess what? I never told you to hang up your real estate agent license. You can still list your properties. And guess what? You don't have to be a broker. You don't have to create a brokerage and take on all of the like liability from having agents under you. No E&O insurance as a broker. So, see, you have what you want right under your nose, and it was there the whole time. You don't have to do stuff outside of your realm of expertise.
Right.
It's right there. You're just 2 degrees off. Heck, you're only 1 degree off. It's like golf. We were golfing yesterday for all those listening. So John and I were at Top Golf. We were golfing, and John's like, "Oh, dude, when you use the driver, you're gonna lean this way, and then you're gonna put some pressure on your back leg, but not too much pressure, right? You just it's that, bro. I'm just telling you to lean this way a little bit, but not too much. That's all it is. And you can get all the results that you ever wanted. You can live the life that you've always wanted by making that little change. But you have to have the courage to do so.
Hmm.
And that's what's going to be the toughest part of all of it. Having that courage. Funny question. Funny question. If you were to open up your plumbing company, would you hang up your real estate agent license or would you still be a buyer agent showing real estate agent? This is important.
Yeah,
Would you hang it up?
I probably wouldn't.
You wouldn't. So you would still show your buyers. You would
Yeah.
still show them and you would attempt to run a brand new plumbing company. That's what you're telling me? You would continue to show the houses to your clients and you would have continued and then try to run a plumbing company.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good question. I think I've noticed that the ones that are successful, the ones that own multiple businesses, are just strictly doing that. They're not like real, like the one who introduced me into buying businesses, she was a realtor and she's no longer like a full-time realtor. So,
So then ultimately you would hang up the real estate agent license thing anyway and you couldn't even service the people anyway.
I've noticed that. Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I probably would have to. Would I want to? Probably not.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. The question is, would you hang it up? And if you hung it up, that means you couldn't service your clients anyway.
Yeah.
So then what? You would have to refer them out anyway. I'm
Well,
just
that's
telling you
why.
to fast forward now and do it now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's why the executive assistant is also a big play too. That's the
Your executive assistant can't do anything for you unless they're an agent.
to a
They
certain
can't show
degree.
houses. They're not legally allowed.
Right. Right.
So you're still in the same boat. You're still going to have to show the people if you stay above board. As an agent, you're only agents can show you the houses. So even if you get an executive assistant, they can't show the house for you. So you're still burning your time to go show the houses.
Yeah, for sure.
Is anything opening up for you? Because you still seem like a glum, like sad.
Oh no, man. It like man, dude, it's like it's opening up. It's like I said, man, it's not something you want to hear. Like who wants to hear that? Like honestly. But at the same time, I'm I'm receptive to listening and I understand what you're saying. It makes sense. It really does.
I would love for you to read the comments after I post this video, and I want you guys watching this video. Like, is John missing something, or is there some validity to how John's feeling? And comment below, let us know how John's doing here. But it, change is tough, and
It that's the hardest thing. It's the change.
right,
It's
and that's where I
when you
said
when you
you have to have the
develop
courage.
when you develop a skill and you develop something that you built on your own and you have someone else tell you that I'm not saying that this is what you're doing, but this is kind of like how it is feels, right? It feels as if someone's telling me what to do when I've been telling other people what to do, or I've been doing things on my own, right? It's extremely hard to be receptive to that. So I'm doing my best to digest it in parts where it actually does make sense. And there's nothing wrong with what you're saying, by the way. I like it made me unpack a lot of things just by having this conversation and me reevaluating. And then also for me to verify with other sources, meaning I need to talk to other people who are in the investing space. Like, hey, how much time are you actually spending flipping houses? Because then that will now equate like, okay, should I be flipping houses now instead of helping buyers and sellers? Because if
You
the
don't have to.
trade-off that
That's not, bro. It's not. Do I flip houses or be an agent?
yeah,
It's do I be an agent? Well, the answer already is no, because you already know what it is.
right.
It's how do you become a better investor? Do I flip houses? Do I do Airbnb? Do I do lease options? Do I do syndications of apartment buildings? Do I do self storage? Do I do warehouses? Do I do commercial? Do I do strip malls? Do I do mobile home parks? Do I do midterm rentals? Do I do long term rental? Do you see? It's not do I flip or do I be an agent? That's so not it.
Well, that's what I'm thinking as far from just a very ground level, right? Like
You don't
there's a
have
remote
to though.
medium.
You don't
Yeah,
have
there's
to
a
think
remote
from a ground
medium
level.
because yeah, like I'm more thinking of it at a very simplistic level and it's already overwhelming enough based on what you're um what you're suggesting. And it's like, man, okay, like and there's truth to it. There's validity to what you're saying. So
Here's a
it's
fun
not
question. Here's a fun question. If the commissions that you make in a year, right? If in a year, let's say you make $250,000, let's say, right? Could you live off of half of that? 125.
depends if I hire my assistant.
No. Here's the thing. You don't need the assistant anymore. Throw the
Yeah.
assistant away because you're not
Yeah,
doing any of the
yeah,
things.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
great. Guess what? Give away all of your referrals to somebody who will do a 50-50 split with you and live off of that and just see how that feels. Don't do anything else. Spend all of the time in the world with your son. Spend all of the time in the world with your wife and just see how that feels. Don't do anything else. Don't be a flipper. Don't be a buy and hold guy. Don't be a syndicator. Don't raise capital. Don't do any of that. Just be with your family and refer all of your business out to somebody who's willing to do 50-50 split with you. And don't hire your assistant. You don't want to go deeper into the rabbit hole that you don't want to be in. Your assistant can't show houses for you. You didn't fix the original problem with hiring an assistant. I know everybody tells you to hire an assistant and do all that, but they're not really listening to what the problem is. The problem is you're showing houses too often. The assistant didn't address that. It's crazy, right? It's crazy. It's like, dude, my roof is leaking. Okay, what are you going to do about it? I'm going to lock the door. Wait, why would you lock the door when the roof is leaking? Because everybody told me to lock the door. Okay. You're hiring an assistant to like do your books and this and that and all that stuff. But the problem is you're going out and showing properties. That's the problem. Your roof is leaking and you choose to lock the door.
Mhm.
Makes no sense.
Oh man, there's a lot that we need to unpack together. I actually have to run to my next
Yeah,
appointment,
I know.
ironically. Here we are talking about freeing up time, and I have an appointment literally at 1 o'clock. So
Yep.
I'm gonna
Well,
run, but dude, we should definitely link up again
we're gonna
and
do a follow-up call and the
yeah,
the viewers are gonna see what you ended up doing. So
yeah,
until then,
yeah,
guys, stay tuned so that you guys can see what
yeah.
John ends up
And,
doing.
and to be fair, I would like to see what people would say as far as the comments go, because I think it having that level of engagement on this discussion really makes me think. So, not what I wanted to hear, being honest, but at the same time, I'm trying to be as receptive as possible to what I'm hearing. So,
All right. Well, there you have it. Enjoy your next meeting with your potential
yes.
buyer.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right, guys. See you in the next episode.
All right.